The movie starts with a scene where a charming English spy named Argyle is preparing to eliminate his target, a terrorist named Lagrange. After a friendly encounter between them and they dancing together, Lagrange betrays Argyle, just with a snap, arming all his accomplices to target Argyle. Argyle then contacts his friend, Kyra, who suggests a plan for Argyle's escape using a tech device. The chase continues between Argyle and Lagrange. Lagrange manages to corner Argyle and Kyra in a showdown, shooting at them. He takes down Kyra but fails to hit Argyle. With the help of his other colleague, Wyatt, he then effortlessly takes down Lagrange from his motorcycle only with one hand. Then they aim to extract a confession from Lagrange to uncover who she works for. They discover she works for a person named Fowler, the same person who hired Argyle and Wyatt. Lagrange then poisons herself with something from her necklace before they can take her in, committing suicide. At this point, Argyle is left astonished, unsure who to trust within his own organization.
Before we start the story, if you enjoy our content, please support us by subscribing or liking, so we can recap more films for you.
The scene in the movie changes to a book reading event hosted by Ellie Conway. In reality, she is the author of the Argyle book series, from which the character Argyle has emerged, created by Ellie herself. After answering questions from fans, Ellie goes back to her personal cabin. While cuddling her favorite cat, Alfie, she intends to start writing the 5th installment of the Argyle series. She spends the entire night engrossed in writing, wanting to finish everything before going to bed. The next day, she talks to her mother, Ruth, about the book, because she is spending the whole night reading her daughter's manuscripts. Her mother tells her that's a good book, but she's not satisfied with the ending. She feels like a promise was broken in the writing's conclusion. Ellie then decides to write the ending of the 5th book in a different way, offering a new chapter to consider a better ending. She imagines different scenarios for the character Argyle to come up with, a more satisfying conclusion, but she realizes that her mind is not helping, and she gets lost in thought. She then decides to board a train to Chicago to visit her mother, as her mother had told her that, for a good closure of the book, will help her. Inside the train, Ellie accidentally meets a person named Aidan, who initially tells her, "I'm a Propinquity Argyle fan," but later informs her that there are people on the train who want to kill her. The person who initially mistook himself as a fan tries to attack Ellie with a penknife, but at that moment, Aidan is forced to confront the attackers to help Ellie, who tries to flee. In the chaos, Ellie sees Aidan as the character Argyle, whom she created in her book. One of the attackers, named Carlos, Ellie recognizes him because he attended her book event as a fan. Aidan manages to take Ellie to the end of the train, where they blast the doors and successfully escape using a rescue parachute. When they are in mid-air, she's passing out. When Ellie regains consciousness, she wakes up in a private cabin and sees Aidan, whose hair he has cut short. Aidan then explains to Ellie that the attackers on the train are actually managed by a sinister organization called the Division, led by a person named Director Ritter. They actually believe that the book Argyle, or Ellie, predicts a part of the events of their organization, acting as an oracle, revealing their organization and policies to everyone. So far, they have also read Ellie's handwritten notes on the 5th book and are waiting for her to complete the last part of the book. Ritter is shown eliminating his own deputy because he failed to capture Ellie and is now after obtaining a master file that could expose the identities of all the members of his organization. Later on, we learn that the character Wyatt is actually based on the character Aidan, while Kira was a real person who seems to have died. Aidan brings Ellie along with her beloved cat Alfie to find an informant named Bakunin, who was supposed to deliver the master file. Hoping to locate Bakunin, Aidan suggests to Ellie to continue writing the chapters of her book, so that Ritter and his people can eavesdrop and trace a clue to the possible location. Upon arriving at an apartment that seems to belong to Bakunin, they don't find anything, but they discover a hidden spot under the floorboard where Aiden finds a book with important information written by Bakunin. Being bugged by the organization, some of the hired members set out to kill them. As they descend to the basement, Aiden jumps out and starts killing the organization members. Before more arrive, they head towards the rooftop and throw themselves onto a dumpster below and escaping. Aiden later takes Ellie to his place in London for her safety, and while in the bathroom, he secretly converses with his employer. He accidentally left the shower open and saying she needs to be taken care of with a bullet. Suddenly Ellie overhears this and takes Alfie in fear before fleeing. She then contacts her mother Ruth to return to her in Chicago. Upon reaching, she reunites with Ruth before her father arrives, revealing that Ellie's father is actually Ritter. Before Aiden arrives, Ritter begins searching Ellie's belongings. Suddenly, Aiden arrives and takes up a gun towards Ritter, telling Ellie they are not her real parents and it's all a setup. Ritter then reveals his true identity and engages in a fight with Aiden. Ruth, who was also part of the organization with the real name Margaret Vogler, aims a gun at Ellie with an English accent. In that moment, Aiden manages to knock out Ritter and shoots Ruth, who was about to harm Ellie. Terrified, Ellie flees with Aiden, but unfortunately leaves Alfie behind. Then, Aiden takes Ellie to escort her to meet her boss, Alfred Elfie Solomon. Here, Ellie realizes that Agent Argyle is actually none other than herself, whose name is Rachel Kyle, or Agent R. Kyle, and she had lost her memory on a mission gone wrong. The book she had written was not a prophecy, but rather memories of her previous life as a spy. Ritter and Ruth, before Aiden, go to her when Rachel had lost her memory, and they convince her that they are her parents, motivating her to write down her thoughts and turn them into a book. They eagerly wait for her to finish her final book so that they can finally uncover the hidden location of the master file. Meanwhile, Ellie is stunned until Aiden intervenes to help her realize her extraordinary talent as a trained agent and bring her back to Earth. Solomon tells Ellie and Aiden that the master file is actually in the hands of an organization in cahoots with Ritter's organization, named Saba al-Bada, the Keeper. They are forced to go to Saudi Arabia, where Ellie must once again play her role as Agent Rachel, while waiting to meet Saba, the person who likely possesses the master file. Rachel and Aiden dance together, and Aiden reveals they had a romantic relationship in the past. Next, Saba talks to Ellie, and when Ellie plays her role as Agent Rachel well, Saba hands her the master file. The division finally manages to capture Ellie and Aiden, taking them into custody and boarding them onto their massive ship, which is actually a navy. Ellie realizes that she was once highly valued by the organization. Flashbacks flood her mind, revealing that she killed Bakunin after taking the master file, and an explosion in his apartment led to the loss of her memory. To save herself, Ellie is forced to pretend to shoot Aiden in the chest, to make Ritter think she is truly on their side. Instead of actually shooting him, the bullet seems to hit Aiden in the chest, and he falls lifeless. The theory is actually mentioned by a fan about bringing back to life Kira after she murdered, and Ellie used the same trick. Aiden then frees himself and kills the goons who had captured him before helping Ellie. She then faces off with Carlos and his men, who are forced to abandon their shooting and start fighting with knives after crude oil spills everywhere and makes the floor slippery. She attaches a few knives to the back of her shoes and glides all the way on crude oil, knocking Carlos Menz off his feet. And then she takes him out by throwing a knife to his heart. She skillfully brings down the rest of the shady individuals with guns, and then, in a romantic scene, Aiden and Ellie start killing all the evil organization members. With a stroke of luck, they manage to get themselves to the ship's control room to send the master file for Solomon. But just then, Ritter aims his rifle towards both of them, and at the same time, Alfie jumps on Ritter, clawing at his face. This gives Aidan the opportunity to shoot and kill Ritter. Unfortunately, Alfie ends up clawing out Ritter's eyes, and they realize they need a retinal scan to complete the file upload. They start uploading the master file for Solomon in an alternative way. Then Vogler shows up, controlling Ellie's mind with a music box to get her to fight Aidan and kill him, and also causing the upload to pause. Reluctantly, Aidan fights Ellie to the edge of death. Suddenly, a masked attacker storms into the ship, hitting Vogler on the head with a wrench, making her drop the music box and breaking it, freeing Ellie from his mind control. It becomes clear that the masked attacker is actually Kira, who survived the gunshot at the beginning of the story just like Aidan did. It turns out that the person who proposed this theory was actually Kira herself, and they all managed to complete the upload with their combined efforts, delivering the master file to Solomon and leaving the ship before it self-destructs, taking everyone alive with it, including Vogler. In the end, Ellie and Aidan kiss. Ellie then resumes her writing career and considers a happy ending for Argyle in her 5th book. She holds an event for her book, and when a fan asks about a continuation for Argyle, Ellie jokingly responds that Solomon receives recognition from the CIA for unveiling the organization. Kira advances in technology and innovation, and Aidan and Ellie live happily together. Suddenly, a fan, who is much more hardcore than Ellie's perception of Argyle's character, starts questioning Ellie, leaving her surprised. In the final flashback scene, 20 years back, a young Argyle is seen entering a pub, seemingly working for a Kingsman agency.
Thanks for watching to the end. Folks, if you enjoy this content, make sure to like us, subscribe, and share us to your beloved ones.